session I am pleased to introduce is dedicated to the topic of leveraging international resources for Vietnam's voluntary carbon market development. To begin the panel, actually what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce the moderator who's going to give a introduction presentation. I would like to bring up to the stage Mr. Cong, who is the head of ESG for Vinacapital.
Good morning, everyone. So I am very pleased to be here and present about a very exciting topic. And firstly, I would like to thank Mimi and Van for the invitation for me to moderate this section. And I think it's a very, very insightful one because it's a new thing, and we will soon hear a lot about the carbon economy, not low carbon economy, but carbon economy. I mean, where we trade the carbon credit all over the world, and where so many businesses aim to generate carbon credits to achieve net zero. And so firstly, I would like to present a very brief overview about the carbon credit market, what it is. Maybe most of you know about that, but there are still someone not already known about this one. So I would like to give a very brief overview about this one so we can be on the same page. So first, the key highlight, why it is very exciting. Firstly, the carbon market will be booming in 2021. The global carbon market values reached the record number of 850 billion. According to Reuters. And secondly, price of carbon credit will continues to rise. The carbon credit may rise up to 30 times by 2029 under tighter rules of all of the governments. This is the research by Bloomberg. And Vietnam is one of the strategic countries for high-quality carbon credits. So I will explain it a little bit later, but we have huge amounts of area for forestry project. We have huge along coastal lines for blue carbon credit. And we have so many like farmers working on their farm that can be like transition to the low carbon agriculture. And we have the economy, the emission of the economy is pretty high for now. That means that the potential for reduction is very high as well. And about the carbon business, so I would like to step back a little bit to explain what is carbon credit, what is carbon economy. So the planet is surrounded by the atmosphere. That includes so many different gases like carbon dioxide, like methane, like sulfur oxide, so many different. But so many of them absorb the radiation from the earth, and it becomes the greenhouse effect when we trap the energy from the sun. And so in the past, the concentration of those greenhouse gases in the atmosphere is stable, but after the industrialization, it increased significantly. So it trapped more and more energy and heat from the sun, and the planet becomes warmer and warmer. So there are two sides of these opinions. So many scientists think that the global warming is the natural process because the earth moving around the sun, and now we reach to the state that the earth become warmer. But for that, we cannot change. We cannot change the moving of the earth around the sun. But the second reason is because of the emission from our industrialization. So the greenhouse gas become like more and more in the atmosphere, and it trap more radiation. So that one we can do something to reduce that. So that's why when we talk about greenhouse effect, when we talk about climate change, we always talk about the man-made reason that we can do. And there are two types of carbon credit. The first one is the carbon reduction credit. For example, government will impose a threshold that one industrial sector can emit. If any companies reduce their emission, so they can create some type of carbon credit, and they can sell the carbon credit. What they call is emission permission. So they can sell it to other that emit higher than the threshold. So that is a carbon reduction credit. And we also have carbon removal credit. For example, if you plant trees, if you do the forestry project, if you do the coral and seagrass conservation, they can absorb a lot of carbon credit, a lot of greenhouse gas from the atmosphere to be in the soil or in biomass. That one they call carbon removal credit. So 1 ton of carbon absorption, they can be equal to 1 carbon credit, and we can be traded freely around the world. And the type of carbon market, the first one is the compliance carbon market. It is developed by the governments or by the countries to put their emission as per commitment with the global accord like Kyoto Protocol or Paris Climate Agreement. And this is done either through imposing carbon tax or setting up mandatory carbon market. And the carbon credit can be traded around the world with agreement between countries and countries or regions by regions. And the second one is a voluntary carbon market, where pioneer companies would like to commit to net zero earlier than the government, and they would like to buy carbon credit to offset their emission. That's what they call the voluntary market. And Vietnam will establish the carbon compliance carbon credit market by 2028. But up to now, up to there, we can still generate carbon credit to be traded on the voluntary market. And this is a key reason why we have the panel discussion today. So this is a very brief overview of the carbon credit price all over the world on the voluntary market. You can have a look at this. Yep. So you can see some of the strategic sector like forestry and land use, renewable energies, chemical processing, waste disposal, or community project as well, or transportation, or agriculture, and blue carbon as well. Yep. So why we are here, we would like to discuss where we are at in Vietnam at the moment, where are companies in Vietnam at, how investors should jump in the market to generate carbon credit for voluntary market, and how to leverage international resources for carbon credit development in Vietnam. So I would be pleased to introduce our panelists on the stage. So we have a very insightful discussion. And believe in me, you will be happy with all of the insightful information after the section. Thank you. Yep, thank you very much. So firstly, I would like to apologize because Mark Forney from the World Bank, he has some urgent tasks in Singapore and is not able to come back for this panel discussion, but I will cover his perspectives and opinions because I just want to share that Vinacapital also established our Vinacapital Climate Impact Fund. So we are investing in projects that can generate carbon credits, and we can develop our own projects that generate carbon credits. So I can share Vinacapital's viewpoint. I think it's quite similar to the World Bank's viewpoint from the investment perspective about the carbon credit market in Vietnam. And secondly, I would like to introduce Ms. Thuy Pham, the CEO of the Office for Private Sector Development Research Committee. Ms. Thuy, in this role, is responsible for implementation of all committee's tasks and activities, which includes assessing implementation of policies and regulations relevant to the development of private sector in order to provide recommendations to the Prime Minister and the governments of Vietnam. So secondly, I would like to introduce Ms. Trang, the Sustainable Agriculture Specialist of Troi Group. Trang is a specialist in charge of sustainable agricultural projects, green agricultural productions, and carbon credits at Troi project. She manages models in terms of HR, data, and certification applications. For example, sustainable rice production model in An Giang and Dong Thap provinces, organic rice shrimp model in Cà Mau province and carbon credit project for Troi Group. Please, Ms. Trang. And thirdly, I would like to introduce Ms. Hanh, Managing Director of Empacte. Hanh is the founder of Empacte, a sustainability consultancy based in Bangkok, advising investors on sustainable and carbon financing. Thank you very much. Please welcome our panelists. So firstly, thanks to all of the panelists for your time and joining and share the experience and insight about the carbon credit market. And so first, I would like to ask the question for Ms. Hanh. In your experience, you have been working on the carbon market and climate finance initiatives in many different countries. And what do you forecast or what do you expect for Vietnam in the next 2 and 3 years?
Hello. Oh, good morning, and thank you, Mr. Cong. And first of all, thank you, Race Partners, for inviting us to this event. Very happy to share our perspective on carbon market. So carbon markets are not new, as Mr. Cong has mentioned before. Vietnam has participated in carbon markets since Kyoto Protocol under Clean Development Mechanism. There have been a lot of changes and a lot of developments in international markets as well as local markets. Now, for challenges and opportunities, I also would like to look at this from business perspective. We look at it from a risk and opportunities perspective. So when we talk about risk and opportunities, we also look at it from an external perspective and internal perspective. So internal perspective in Vietnam, we do not yet have a mandatory emission trading scheme. However, there have been policies and regulations looking at how to prepare Vietnam towards that path. So for example, the law of environmental protection 2020, as well as, I think it's no longer recent, but it was a decree number 6 in 2022, has mentioned about how businesses have to start preparing for greenhouse gas inventory and data. So that is one perspective. From external perspective, I think there's a number of risk and opportunities. In terms of risk, you know, we talk about, I think a lot of the previous speakers, and including the ambassador yesterday, talk about market access to the EU. And I would like to bring attention to businesses and investors in Vietnam about the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, the CBAM, which, you know, at the moment we're just talking about a number of sectors. However, basically the regulation is to stop carbon leakage for the European market. So if imported products from Vietnam has carbon emission embodied, then you need to pay the price for that. So what does that mean for exporting products from Vietnam to the European market? So that's one. And I think second is, in terms of opportunities, the Paris Agreement has Article 6, and Article 6.2 and Article 6.4 provide for the ability for Vietnam as a country to trade, it's called Internationally Traded Mitigation Outcomes, ITMOs or ITMOs is not quite the very sexy acronym, but basically to allow for Vietnam to trade mitigation outcomes with other countries, as well as to provide for, they call it, I think at the moment the term may be a sustainable development mechanism. It's the next life of the CDM. So those are opportunities. Now, to capture those opportunities, you really need the regulatory frameworks in place in order for businesses as well as investors to take part.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Hanh. And yeah, I do agree with all of that. The CBAM creates pressure for Vietnamese company, especially exporters who would like to bring their product to the European countries. They need to or reduce the emission or compensate the emission by carbon credit. And as Vinacapital has been working on our carbon impact funds for years, and we found out that the opportunities are huge. So many companies have very great opportunity to generate carbon credits, but we have some limitation. Firstly, about the knowledge and experience of the company. Everyone know about the potential of the carbon credit market, but they do not know how to generate carbon credit for their business and how to start. And so that is one of the challenges. And the second one is the human resources. So at the moment in Vietnam, there are very limited number of consultants or verifiers who have deep understanding of the carbon credit market and who can help the company to generate. So now we need to hire an international consultant to do that for the project in Vietnam. So I think that also the opportunities for everyone if you would like to dig deeper into the inside of the carbon credit, and if you would like to work into it, start from now. That is your opportunity for the next like 5 or 10 years or even more. So coming back to your challenge about the regulation framework for Vietnam, I would like to ask Ms. Thuy from the PSD committee. As Ms. Hanh mentioned before, Vietnam is in the spotlight now, especially after its commitment to net zero by 2050. From the standpoint as a bridge of public and private sectors, what should be the roadmap for Vietnam to take these opportunities as well as manage risk? And working with various government bodies in this, can you share where we are at now?
Thank you for your question and thank you for the invitation. It's very happy to join this meeting. In fact, we focus on the green transition topic more than 1 year ago. The first time many leaders of business associations called me and expressed their worry about the new situation after our government have the strong commitment at COP26. They worry about the contents of this commitment. They worry about the process or how to do everything. They don't know. When we think about the roadmap for this topic, it's not easy to say the roadmap for the long process, but I think for the early stage of this topic, we think about the roadmap with the short name maybe we call CDEP. C is change mindset. We try to push the new mindset for both government and private sector, because I agree with the first opinion that the current time is must to do, not so to do. We face with some new policy of international market, for example, CBAM, as you mentioned, and some similar preparation of US or some other country. So must to do is the main thinkings in government and private sector now. That is the first roadmap. The second thing we put we put the thinkings of government about the master plan. We don't want to mention about the master plan or by templates of COP. We want to focus the master plan with the detailed action plan and including the efforts of private sector and international partner. That is the big gap in Vietnam now, because maybe we lack the connection between public and private sector and international partner in the important process. The continue with things about the educate enterprise. Educate enterprise now is very, very, very important. We have the survey last year and we conduct a report to Prime Minister. The result of survey show that enterprise have the very low knowledge about the commitment and some international policy as well as those metrics legal framework. And better than ever, we start to build the raising awareness for private sector from last year until now. And Cong is one of our senior experts. We share with private sector about the new situation, about the situation to show with private sector how to why to must, not why to should. After educate enterprise, I think we can put them in some pilot projects. Pilot project is very important in the early stage now. Cong and I work with some different sectors from enterprise, from timber network, paper, or steel, or some other industrial sector. We also work with Đồng Tháp provincial level, and we try to put some pilot thing, because in Vietnam, as you know, if we only say, talk and see everything in paper, maybe it's not good. We try to have a specific example. So pilot is very important. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Thuy. And so as Ms. Thuy said, she and me and other partners have been organizing some like workshop with the key sectors like forestry, paper production, or steel industry, or cafe industry, and furniture as well, on how would be their challenges and opportunities in the market. And companies are very interested in this one, but they do not know how to start, as I mentioned before. And so from that standpoint, I am very pleased to have Ms. Trang here. So she's a representative of Troi Group. Troi is one of the rising star for carbon credit market in Vietnam, and one of the key agricultural companies in Vietnam. And they have been working with some investor and consultant, international consultant, on their carbon credit project for the low emission rice farming. And so Ms. Trang, from your private sector standpoint, how do you see this mega trend about the carbon market? And I know Troi has been working on the carbon credit project. Would you like to share some of your experience to peers and to investors here? Thank you.
Yeah, firstly, I would like to say thank you for Troi in this run. Yeah, I'm not good at tell story because I'm a technical person, but really happy to be here to share our story, how we access the carbon credit market, even though it's just really first step. Yeah, Troi is a rice producer and exporting in the South Vietnam. In 2016, we collaborate with the farmer to implement the sustainable rice standard in 3 provinces in Mekong River Delta. At that time, we didn't have any information about carbon credit. At that time, we just think sustainable rice cultivation is a good approach for farmers to manage their field better in terms of less use of pesticide, less use of fertilizer, less use of water, and straw treatment properly. At that time, we just think about that. And in 2020, there is the international partner came to Troi and said that, oh, you could claim carbon credit based on that model. Wow, so surprising. Yeah, at that time, even though Vietnam, didn't any information about carbon credit. Yeah, even though it really common in international market. Wow. Yeah, we invest 7 years ago. And in 2000, last 3 years, we put a first step on carbon credit market. Yeah, I could say that we came to carbon credit market really naturally. We spend effort for farmers to support them to approach the good practice, for better life, and now we could claim carbon credit. And based on our experience, I could say that for carbon credit project, we should start early and with a really clear MRV tool. Yeah, because basing on that, we could like how we documentary our data, how to meet the requirement of certification body. Yeah, and it could take 10 years or 5 years or 10 years to meet the break-even point of a project. Yeah, currently we could say that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Trang. So the message from her is start doing some good thing early, and God will bring the gift for you. Okay, and so second round, I would like to ask Ms. Hanh. You've been working with so many different companies and investors and governments on the carbon market. What are the advice for Vietnam, and what initiative you think can be implemented in Vietnam successfully?
Thank you. I just would like to pick up on Ms. Trang's point about MRV. So if any advice I could give, that is MRV. So there's two aspects about MRV for businesses. Number one is, of course, is to make sure that you trade good credits and you don't face issues in the future. There's another point, and I think this is an opportunity, that is to employing new technologies for your MRV methodology. And there's a number of things, and I actually also in touch with Dr. before. For example, using satellite image for MRV for your soil, for forestry, or using digital token to proven that you utilize renewable energy, and there's many other new technologies in order to ensure your MRV is actually robust and so trustworthy and tradable. And so that is the number one important rule for business, is MRV. In terms of examples, and I would like to share, because I am currently living in Bangkok, Thailand, which is very close to Vietnam. And I also mentioned about Article 6 before, and under Article 6.2, there is a provision for trading between countries. So there is a very nice example where the Switzerland government and Thailand government enter into an agreement to buy the internationally traded mitigation outcomes that I mentioned before, which is a bilateral agreement enabled under the Article 6 that has allowed for a brand new e-bus project in Bangkok that is enjoying the carbon credits for Bangkok government. So that is a very nice example, and I'm full of optimism for Vietnam to be able to do that. And of course, the first step is to establish the regulatory framework and the agreements led by the governments.
Thank you, Ms. Hanh. And so, Ms. Thuy, I would like to ask you, you have been working closely with both private sector and the public sector on this one. What are the recommendations for both sides to prepare for the carbon market in Vietnam?
From my side, I think the very important thing for our government now is forming a carbon market need to be done immediately, but need to separate the attitude between the compliant markets and voluntary market. It's very important now. I discussed with some state agency, and I think maybe they only think about the compliant markets, not think about the voluntary markets. So maybe they will use the attitude for compliant markets with voluntary market is not good for our business needs. The other things, as you mentioned, it's very important to develop the monitoring system now. Lộc Trời is one of our case study, and only Lộc Trời know about the solution to do something. But many business don't know. So MRV or something like that, or every related thing need to be organized from now. Legal framework is very important. Yes, at the current time, Cong and I know that that is only in still in the discussion between some related ministries. So we want to push the draft of legal framework as soon as possible, not only in that discussion. And with private sector, as I told all of you, they lack of awareness, they lack of the specific model. So raising awareness and update information is very important. We have the big network with leader of business association in Vietnam. So in our program, more than 30 business associations work with us, and Cong and some other agencies, other consultants, international and local. So we try to push to update for them the international policy and the domestic policy. And the final thing is very important is pilot. We have some early discussion with different industries to think about the orientation of private sector because the issue, the challenge of some different sector is different. So I think pilots, yeah, with private sector.
Yep, thank you very much. So I do agree with you that the compliance market for Vietnam is not established until 2028 and maybe later. So, but the opportunities and the potential is very high now. So from now until there, we cannot wait, right? We need to work on the voluntary market, and the government should have some special, what they call special mechanism to support the voluntary market on carbon credit from now until we establish the compliance market. Thank you. That is a very important recommendation. And chị Trang, I would like to ask you, what challenges do you see for the carbon business initiative, and what are the plans and expectations?
Yes, actually, Dr. doesn't recognize like carbon credit, like revenue is the main, the main target of our rice production. Yeah, we just think that's extra income for farmers after they do a good thing. Yeah, that's the first thing I could say. But if say about the challenge for business to run now carbon credit commercialization, that could be investment. Yeah, in terms of invest for farmer to do good thing, invest in consultant, as you mentioned before. Yeah, because we have to contact with international consultant to make the proposal, something like that. In terms of human resources, and the time to meet the break even, 5 years or 10 years. So that's the first challenge I found during our implementation, because we invest 7 years ago, and until now, we just the first step in the carbon credit market. Yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing could be MRV tool not clear now. Yeah, lack of information in Vietnam, we could say that. Yeah, lack of information, and the ability of Vietnamese business to access to carbon credit market quite quick. Because we lack of information, we lack a tool to access that. So those things I could say now. Yeah, but actually for Dr. Rip, we would like to have the green profile portfolio more than selling carbon credit. Yeah, because you mentioned before, next few years, carbon tax will be active in Europe, could be in America. It could be a barrier for rice import to those markets. And local Rip now mainly export rice to Europe and America. So we should do something good and jump over the barrier. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, the message is do something good and God will reward you, right? Yeah, okay, thank you. So I would like to ask one more question for you. It's not in the script, so maybe, but you work with thousands or not tens of thousands of farmers for the MRV system. Do you deal with some challenges on this one, or how do you manage it?
Yeah, actually, it's really hard to keep the farmers, yes, stay stable with us. Yeah, that's the first thing I could say. Like, the price in Vietnamese markets, like fluctuation. Yeah, fluctuate from years by year, from season by season. Actually, Dr. sign contract with farmer. Yeah, that's the way, the first step, we keep the farmers stay with us. We support them on things. We invest on things from seed, fertilizer, chemicals, and buy the product and do the processing. Yeah, and we also pay premium for farmers who do good things, like who produce rice, meet the requirement of Europe market, American market. We pay premium for them. Yeah, that's the second thing we deal with the farmer to keep them stay stable with us. And another thing, when we talk about commercialization of carbon credit, we tell that to the farmer. We tell that to the farmer, and we commit that we will share the profit from carbon credit if we get that. By many ways, like we could reinvest for the farmer, pay for health insurance for them. Yeah, we will do something good for someone, do good thing. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And again, do good thing and farmers will follow you. Okay, thank you very much. So it's time for you to ask a question, please. Yep, please.
Hi, my name is John Vu, and I'm a sustainability advisor for Star Print Vietnam JSC, which is a printing and packaging supplier here in Dong Nai, Vietnam, with maybe over a few thousand workers. So very interested to hear the panel so far, and I wanted to ask how best for a company like ours to start. You know, our general director is very committed to becoming more and more sustainable. How best for such a factory to start? Thank you.
Can you please tell me who would like you to direct the question to?
Anybody on the panel.
Ms. Hanh, I think it's your experience.
Sure. I think, and first of all, congratulating on your interest and desire to start on this journey. First of all, I think data is the most important. So you need to start establishing your data collection procedure. And that is not a small feat because you need to get data from different departments within your company. But that is the number one important task to start. And of course, because it's linked across different departments, the advice and the experience that I have worked with a lot of different businesses is that you need to get the approval and agreement from senior leadership for this. And that is, for whatever that you're about to start.
Just to quickly add, previous years, revenue could have been higher. This year, it's difficult for many industries around, in different sectors around the world, correct? So I heard the panel speaking about pilots and how best could a factory participate in such a pilot if senior leadership's already going to buy in?
The first thing, we organize the list of conference between businesses and experts, senior experts, to discuss about the situation and to think about the requirement of international market and local markets. That is important thing to start everything. Second thing, we try to find the pioneering company. Pioneering, not only you give, raise your hand or something like that. We see the income, the readiness, the knowledge, the commitment of the leader and something like that. And we try to put some state discussion with pioneering company in some different sector. Maybe in this earlier stage, many companies want to join our pilots, but not easy. So we will rely the pioneering company, and after that, we will conduct the report to Prime Minister. Because, as you know, when we launch a legal framework, everything needs to have the exception of Prime Minister or government. So we are now working on that stage, prepare some material thing to report to Prime Minister. Yeah. And through our big network with business association, we will announce for businesses about that kind of program. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the sharing. Yeah, please, next question, please.
Hello, my name is Hugh. I am CEO of Carbon Farm Technology. We're an Earth satellite imaging MRV service for rice. So I have a question. So we are a startup. So we, as I have heard from the panelists here, the time horizon seems for carbon market pretty long. You mentioned about 2028, and Ms. Trang said that it's going to take 5-10 years to get to break-even point. For startup, we don't have that luxury. Working with one of the public-private seems pretty complicated as a full ecosystem. In other developed markets, I find it's already hard, and in Vietnam, it's even harder. So I would like to seek some advice from you, from the panelists, how to navigate the public-private relationships in a market that is pretty nascent, very long-term horizons. So how can a startup can survive such a pretty difficult environment? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I would like to confirm you are working as a consultancy company, right? Oh, yep. Okay, thank you very much. So as Ms. Thuy mentioned, firstly, we need to do some pilot projects. And so from now, as Ms. Trang said, from the time you start until the time you can generate carbon credit, it can take up to 7 years or 5 years. It depends on sectors. But when you work with investor, if they see the potential, they can invest some cash in advance right from the beginning when they sign the contract. So first, that is the first revenue you can base on, rely on. And secondly, there are so many governments supporting the piloting like initiative on that one. For example, the Dutch government, they are supporting some ideas on that one. So approach them and approach other government like Australian government or English government or Canadian government. They have some support for pilot project on carbon market at the moment. So I hope I answered the questions.
One thing I want to add, I agree that it's not easy to convince our government to develop in the early stage. Besides some very active program with businesses, we are now prepared for the big forum between public and private sector. Our committee have a function and special task that is develop the Vietnam Economic Forum in many years. But from this year, we want to change to focus on green topic. So we are now prepared to report for Prime Minister about the Green Economic Forum. Through the forum, we want to boost the connection between public and private sector. And the policy discussion will support for private sector to express all of your challenge, all of your worry. And we also think about the opportunity for both of government and private sector to boost the process of green transition is faster and faster.
Also, just to say that let's talk during the break because I'm also working. We are working with a number of pilot projects for in addition to the pilot projects with PPP, that is to internationally trading in the market internationally. So let's speak and see how we can combine.
Yeah, actually, could I contribute to actually your company could go along with Dr. Reed. actually, at this time we cooperate with some company in terms of MRV using satellite to measure the quarter level in the field to documentary our data. So a recommendation I could give you, like you go with a business who willing to do commercialization of carbon credit. Yeah, it's the good way to be partner. Yeah, and share risk. No, share profits at the end. Yeah. Thank you.
And please approach Ms. Trang during the break. Maybe she will be the first giant client. Okay, and so unfortunately we have limit time and time is up. So I know that you have a lot of questions more, so please, you can email me or one of the panelists here if you have any questions after the section. Thank you very much for the time.